Do you know what you're doing?
I have detailed files on human anatomy.
I bet. Makes you a more efficient killer, right?
Correct.
Hello and welcome to Just One More Watch. A little bit of Arnie in the intro today to get us in the mood for the review of this, the Ciga Design's Z series in titanium. There's definitely a whiff of Terminator about this one, particularly once he's got half his face melted off and you can see all the internals. It's a skeleton watch after all. No prizes for guessing what look they're going for here. Very much Richard Mille, but at a fraction of the cost. And when I say a fraction, I really do mean a fraction today. You can easily drop $250,000 on a Richard Mille if you want to. These Ciga Design Z series titaniums yours for the much more reasonable sum of $250 US, 1/1000th of the price. Now, this video is sponsored by Ciga Design. They sent me this prototype for free. I don't have to return it. And as you can see there, they were very clear to make it obvious to everybody that this is a sample, this is a prototype. From what I can gather though, it may have been used for some photo shoots elsewhere, but it's in fantastic condition and this is pretty representative of what you can expect if you have backed the campaign. And judging by the success of the campaign so far, at least 888 people have already done just that. Now, I've looked at a couple of Ciga Design's watches on the channel so far and I've quite enjoyed them. This time though, I've just picked up a macro lens, so it's going to be really interesting to get down and dirty with that one using the macro. Let's flip the camera and have a look at it. So let's start with a brief look at that outrageously successful Indiegogo campaign then. I will obviously leave a link to this one in the description of the video. 300,000 plus Aussie dollars raised so far, 888 units sold. I think that's what you call a success. Early bird specials are now gone, but you can still pick this one up for $259 US. Really, this one is all about the titanium case. Ciga do make this Z series watch in stainless steel, but they argue that the titanium is 40% stronger and 30% lighter. Now, they do claim 30 meters of water resistance. I wouldn't necessarily be getting this one wet though. I think 30 is the kind of bare minimum doing the dishes, but I wouldn't be taking it swimming, certainly. And once you get beyond the outer packaging that has the word sample written all over it, what are you faced with? Well, this, if you have seen any of my previous Ciga Design reviews, this should all look too familiar. The head of the watch there and a couple of different strap options. The leather one I think is the most boring strap they could have paired the watch with. The silicone rubber one I think, however, is excellent. Let's get it assembled and do dimensions and specifications. So, tonneau shaped case, no curvature to speak of at all, 43 millimeters in diameter, about 12.5 mil thick, but only 48 mil lug tip to lug tip, so it actually wears quite well on wrist. I guess the fact that it's made of titanium, we've only got about 74 grams sitting here, including that super comfortable, super flexible rubber strap. 22 millimeter lug width. Now that is a piece of curved sapphire crystal covering the dial. Judging by the way that it's bouncing off the studio lighting in here, I don't believe there is any anti-reflective coating on the underside there. Finishing on the titanium case is excellent. Even though this is a sample in big letters, it all seems to be pretty reasonably done. Now those crown guards are separate items, they're not part of the overall case structure, they're added on. They do a reasonable job of protecting the crown. They do make it slightly difficult to hand wind the movement. The movement does hack and hand wind, I'll talk a little bit about it later on, but overall can't complain about the finishing. It does have Ciga Design etched into the other side, all very nice. It's the same overall case as the stainless steel one, but obviously using a different material this time around. So zoomed in on the dial, and as you can see, it is just a three-hander there. They haven't bothered trying to integrate a date into all of this, and it is fully skeletonized. Sapphire on the front, unspecified on the back. I'm guessing that's just a mineral crystal, but plenty of skeletonization you can see right through the middle of the watch. Legibility, well, don't buy this and complain that you can't see it clearly, because legibility is not the name of the game today. We have got a red tip and a little bit of lume there. I'm not even going to insult you by showing you a lume video. It is marginal at best. and likewise a red tip with a little bit of loom on the back of the minute hand. The most prominent thing here, I guess, is that bright red needle tipped second hand there. You could almost thread the back of that one. There is a kind of baton system running around the outside, so you've got a double baton at 12, 3, 6 and 9, and you've got those single batons. It's not ridiculously difficult to read, but don't expect it to be at a glance instantaneously legible the way that a diver would be. Now let's have a look at it under macro lens. Don't expect Richard Mille finishing for $250, but I don't think this watch disgraces itself. Certainly nothing that you would pick up with the naked eye, nothing that looks too out of place under the macro lens either. There is a bit of an attempt to finish the rotor there, a bit of kind of perlage. It doesn't look too bad. As you can see here, I'm kind of pulling the focus back and forward so you get an idea of what the different plates, etc. look like under my most intense macro lens. The case back is screw on. You've got one screw in each of those corners, advertising the fact that it's titanium, and as discussed, water resistant, 3 atmospheres, 30 meters, splash proof, but I would not be taking this one swimming, as I said. Now the movement in the back of this one is made by Seagull. It's what Ciga Design referred to as a AAA, so it's the kind of top of the Seagull range. It's kind of their premium end. Don't be frightened of the fact that it's a Seagull. Seagull make nearly 400 million movements each year, so they certainly know a thing or two about movements. I will pop this one on the time grapher, fairly arbitrary. I don't know all that much about it, but it should determine whether it's a decent one or a donkey. So in the default flat on its back position with a default 52 degrees set as the lift angle, 21,600 vibrations per hour as you can see. That is a healthy amplitude, a reasonable beat error and a pretty good variance per day. So certainly you wouldn't be unhappy getting this one in a $250 watch. But let's be honest, most people aren't buying this one because of the accuracy of the movement. They're buying it because of how cool it looks on wrist. There it is on top of my 7-inch wrist. As I said, pretty much no curvature to that case at all. It's dead flat, but only 48mm lug tip to lug tip. 75 grams. It actually wears really nicely. This silicone rubber strap is super soft and comfortable. There's a Ciga Design etched buckle in there as well for good measure. I think it wears very nicely. And that's it, zoomed out higher for perspective, the proper overhead shot, doing a very passable impersonation of a Richard Mille or something similar, and I can just about tell you that it's 14 minutes to 2. That's it outside in some natural light, and like I said, legibility perhaps not this one's strong suit. Those little red tips on the second hand, I'm sure if you wear this one on a regular basis, you'll get used to training the eye to pick those up. As I said, I'm not sure how much, if any, anti-reflective coating is on the underside of that rather attractive piece of curved sapphire crystal anyway. On wrist though, it does wear really quite nicely. Compact lug to lug, not a lot of weight, super comfy strap. Moans and niggles section, what am I going to complain about today? Well, you already knew from looking at the thumbnail whether this watch has any appeal to you whatsoever. I think this one is going to be a bit of a polarizer. It's clearly with 888 pre-orders on Indiegogo, it has a lot of interest. There are a lot of people who are going for this look. Similarly, I'm sure this is not everyone's cup of tea. The rubber strap, I reckon, is the one to go for. I think this is possibly the most boring alternative strap that they could offer. A genuine leather but faux crocodile print, pretty ugly considering how radical the watch is. They then put the most conservative of all possible straps on it. No thanks. I've already talked about the difficulties with legibility and the 30 atmospheres of water resistance. I guess that is part and parcel of the ownership of one of these watches. And do you remember these guys? The kittens of rotor noise doom. Normally reserved for when I review Mille to 8000 series. But I must say, this AAA Seagull movement is a little bit noisy. This one's fresh, and as noted, it is a sample, so perhaps it is slightly noisier than production units are going to be. Quite often, our noisy rotor will calm down with a bit of use, but I'm going to bring the kittens in and let you know just how noisy this one is. Certainly the thin and light skeleton titanium case does little for noise suppression. I don't like a noisy rotor myself, but I know a lot of guys don't bother with that at all. But my moans and niggles notwithstanding, overall I think for $250 odd, you're getting a really interesting piece of design on your wrist, one that is eminently wearable once you get used to reading the dial. So there you have it. If you are one of the nearly 1,000 people who have already backed this campaign on Indiegogo, not to mention the backers on Kickstarter, I don't think you're going to be disappointed at all. $250 for a titanium watch is a bit of a bargain in the first place, let's be honest. There aren't that many of them on offer, and I think this one is very, very well designed. I was really quite pleased how well that movement stood up under the macro lens. Don't be frightened of the fact that it's a seagull. So if you like the Richard Mille look, but don't quite have $250,000 to drop on one, don't fret, pick up a Ciga instead. Thanks for watching, see you in the next one.